Hi, my name is Flip Awesome Aguilera, and welcome to WEYT, the show where I find interesting people just like you and discover what's going on between their ears. Now, let's get to know one another. What's good, everybody? Flip Awesome Aguilera here, and welcome to another episode of WEYT. Today's mantra or thought of the day is changing your interpretation of the past is often just as good as changing your past. So be mindful of those stories that you're telling yourself, how you're telling them, and how you might be able to change how you tell them. So if you check it out over here, I have a fantastic fresh looking face over here, and this is Morgyn Danae. Danae, I never really got how to say your last name correctly.
It's Danae.
Danae. And Morgyn Danae. Yes. And Morgyn is somebody I hold very dear. Morgyn and I met in Miami through a mutual friend of our named James, who's also an amazing person. And she helped me a lot when I was with clients, and my clients loved her because she is amazing. And that is the reason that I kept sending her back, because I always got good feedback from anytime Morgyn ended up hanging out with any of my clients. So that is how I ended up meeting Morgyn. But Morgyn, tell us a little bit more about you, your journey, what you've been going through, what you've been through, all that fun stuff.
Okay. That's a long story, but I'll narrow it down. So I am actually coming to you from Southern California. Today is the year anniversary that I left Miami to move across country. And so I'm here in Orange County, and I am a core and dance recovery coach and mentor. In a nutshell, I am a dancer, and I work with dance therapy and core recovery and strength, somatic trauma recovery. I am a thriver with a past lived history of mental illness, and have come to the other side. So here I am at 52 years old. I feel like I've kind of come to the party. I'm here ready for the party. In these times, and I say that actually in a very joyful but also sober way, committed to being in joy and being in health and service and creative expression and community, and just walking that path of wholeness in that commitment to wholeness, being in love, walking in love, and what that takes, supporting others in that process as well.
All right, awesome. So there was a lot of information there. So
it was a lot of information.
Let's start to break it apart. So you said core and dance recovery therapy, and you said a whole host of other things. But let's start with the core and dance recovery therapy. What even got you into something, and what even is core and dance recovery?
Well, so basically, this was just a calling, that I felt quite a while ago. I don't know that this is a term that a lot of people use. It's something that kind of represents what I've been putting together in my walk of over about 25 years of study and practice and working, and my own concurrent healing process as well. So when I speak about core and dance recovery, it's really looking at, first of all, core. Obviously, the first thing might be the idea of working with the physical core, with
so
the
let's
center
talk
of the
about
body.
that a second. What do you consider is the core, so that we can really give people an understanding? Because I know what you and I think is the core, but how many people have dug into the core like we have? So what do you even mean when you say the core?
Well, and so when I say in terms of the core physically, then there's the core emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And so I'm working with all of those levels. But yeah, the core being in kind of coming at it first from the physical element. So often people will have that idea. First, you just go right to just the abs, and then that 6-pack idea.
Yeah.
Which is a part of it. The core being really, and I kind of talk about, I really relate to it from kind of the extended family of the core as well. The core being our center, being our abdominal muscles, those deeper muscles as well, down into the pelvic floor. Also how that affects into our pelvis, into the hip mobility, how we connect into our posture, how we connect into our breath would also And we know this can go on also. This
Yeah.
is a seminar, multiple seminars in itself, into how our nervous system is being calibrated, how that impacts our mental health, our mood regulation, our hormonal regulation, but the core also in that physical level being our center of movement, of the balance in our movement, of the strength of our movement. And that impacts us on so many levels, chakra wise as well, how we connect with ourselves, how we connect to the earth, how we ground. And that's even in that physical way of the muscles, our creative center, our digestive center, and all of these things. There's the muscular aspect, and that even impacts the tissues, the soft tissues. That impacts our digestion, that impacts our nervous system, how our tissues are actually holding our story. As you started with the mantra, and that's also from that somatic perspective, body-based perspective, the intelligence of our bodies. We know when we speak about our centers, our bellies, our core, our intuition, our feelings, we feel things in this area as well. So when it's functioning and intact and we're connected to it, it impacts us on so many different levels. It's so much more than a surface aesthetic that actually is also, that's great. I mean, wonderful. We are works of art. Our bodies are temples. They're the home for our spirits, and they are a reflection of our spirits as well. So there's not a separation in that way, but to have that all be connected so that we are free in our movement, we're strong in our movement for the rest of our lives. We can have that.
Amazing. Very deep explanation there.
That's kind of how I have to work on trying to start at this place and then go.
And how did you even discover all of this for yourself?
That's it. I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I really don't know where it all started. I'll say dance, and we'll say the core, that whole element. I would say that kind of probably the awareness of that started as a very young child, being drawn to belly dance. Seeing my first true professional belly dancer at a very, very young age, and just being really mesmerized, like, this is special, this is amazing. I was very young. And that embodiment, that divine embodiment of the feminine, of the goddess, and that power, very strong and powerful and expressive, that creative expression, that life force that was coming forth. I mean, I didn't have all those words at that age, but I knew something was going on there. Just doors kind of opened. Dance was always a part of my life, just organically, not so much about lessons and performance as much as just being a dancer, needing to dance, loving to dance. And then in my late 20s, in the 90s, it was all just kind of following intuition. I was called to study belly massage. I started studying Qinate Song, which is an ancient Chinese Taoist healing art. And my teacher was wonderful, Allison Post, in Tucson, Arizona. And she also was teaching kind of her own kind of distilled down and also very user-friendly perspective on breath work and the belly and energy work, called Unwinding the Belly. That's her book. That was a real turning point for me. I was about 28, and I was called to also at that time. That came at the time when I was feeling a calling to teach dance as a healing art. It just was part of this. It was just a spiritual calling. I can't really say that there was some, it came from within as I was doing my own inner healing work to heal from trauma. I felt the calling, and it started with a calling to teach belly dance as a healing art. So I was doing breath work, energy work, guided visualization, and then I came across this teaching as well. And I just had that vision around that age, when I was kind of waking up to my passion, my purpose, and this healing path, that I was going to be working with dance and working with the belly, with the center, working with women, but I'd say even saying the divine feminine, because there are definitely men who come through. I specialize a lot with women. I'm definitely open to working with men who feel this calling and this draw to do this.
So you've brought up the word somatic or somatotype already a handful of times. What does that mean to you?
Well, just to put it in a nutshell, I'd say somatic really means to me working with the body, specifically body-based, and also working with the intelligence of the body. When we do that, we're not just looking at the body as like a machine to control or something that's disconnected from our whole selves that we want to get a performance out of, but it's really listening. It's going inside and listening to what the body has to say and how it can guide us, so that we're a lot more kind of moving from the inside out.
Before we transition to the next question, I would like to get your journey from how you got from mental illness to learning how to walk in love.
Well, that's definitely a continual process,
Yeah.
a day to day, moment by moment, process too. So that was actually all happening kind of concurrently as well. Felt a calling at about 25 to start. Well, it wasn't like I was just sitting there, oh, I feel a calling. I needed to save my own life, basically. I was on the edge. And
what did you need to save your life from?
First of all, just not completely breaking down and giving up. It was a kind of a turning point. It was a wake-up call. My dad was dying of cancer, I found out, and I was extremely attached to him. And so I kind of felt like I would die if he died, which is really something you want to heal.
But do you think, before you go on, do you think a piece of you does die when a parent dies,
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge loss to go through, by all means. And I do think that, yes, in that way of such a deep loss and part of our life, so to speak, this person that we're connected to, although that connection, of course, continues on in spirit. But this was more of a codependent, dysfunctional element where really, it was just time that I had to really it was a turning point where I was going to really need to really connect, because all the stuff that had been accumulating needed to shift. And so, but this process has been kind of an ongoing process of I'd say the wounded healer's journey, doing healing work and studying healing work and being very committed to that work, but having to keep going deeper in your own process to heal that. And as you're learning to do that and actually embody that process of healing and transformation, being able to support others to do the same thing. So it's kind of like it's the teaching as you go as well. I would say that going through the mental illness, and it was like bouts of mental illness, breakdown, going into severe depression, dissociation, psychosis at certain points, but not like all the time, but just hitting these places. And then coming back from that was part of learning self-love. That was part of learning more and more about love. First of all, you have to believe you can heal. That's one of the biggest pieces. And knowing that it's going to be a commitment on all levels. It's the way you live. It's the way you think, which affects, of course, the way you live. It's lifestyle. It's working with, for me, my perspective, and I really respect everybody to have their own truth. So it's always, of course, important for us to share our own truth and perspective, so that those who find that to be supportive can kind of be a lighthouse for that. But I really believe in the power of spiritual healing, spiritual work. I don't believe that we're alone here. I believe that there's a source, a divine source, and that we come from that, and that source is made of love, and that's what we're made of. But it's that practice. It's the practice of connecting to that inner divinity and that guidance, and that is such a powerful healing presence. It can transform so many situations, conditions, because mental illness is also a physical experience, and everybody there are different labels and terms and experiences, but it does manifest in the body as well. So it's a commitment on all levels to heal and to practice that. And that's a very big, piece. For me, it's been spiritual practice. It's been lifestyle. It's creative expression. Dance is actually one of my tools for healing. And that's been my personal process and also the way that I support others. And it's being willing, and again, this is my own perspective, but it's being willing to let go of also places that can be a comfort zone in the misery, where we can, it's kind of like you're burrowing under the covers in the darkness, you know? And it can be scary to face life, because when you open up, you're going to get in touch with those more vulnerable feelings, but you're also going to get in touch with more of the joy and more of the freedom that comes with that.
Thank you for sharing part of who you are and how you've become who you are with us. But now we're going to transition to the next part of the show, which is, again, what this show is all about. So Morgyn, can you please share with us what's been engaging your thoughts lately?
Oh gosh, there's a lot going on these days, right?
Yeah.
What's been engaging my thoughts a lot lately? You know, one of the things that being focused on, how can I show up in these times most clearly, and just being really aware of the energies that we're dealing with, the struggles that are going on internally and externally, that we're in that like really delicate place of facing a lot of shadow in ourselves and in society and in our institutions, looking at a lot of things that needed for social change, but also being clear about where are we headed. You know, how do we want to each individually hold ourselves and hold our energy and our actions, kind of be there for each other as well, so that we're safe. You know, we're like, for me, it's a lot of, how is my presence or my energy impacting other people? How can I most clearly find my way in these times and find my most joyful expression, and also connect with other people who are looking for that, you know, kind of people that want to build a love-based reality, you know, and want to celebrate us being ourselves, and creating communities that are based on that and based on good human decency, creative solutions, and quality of life. So that as all the stuff is breaking down, the way we've been treating the earth, the way we've been treating each other, all the different isms, racism, sexism, ageism. I mean, there are so many, homophobia. There's so many isms that we've developed, you know, out of this fear-based reality. But how can we, just being really aware of connecting with people who I feel that synergy with, because we're creating, you know, we're always creating, but we're really at that pivotal time to create something. We know what we don't want, but let's create what we do want.
So one of the first things you brought up when I asked you this question is the shadow. So tell us more about your concept of the shadow, where you even got the idea of the shadow, some of the things you are doing to try to work with the shadow, right? Because the shadow is not necessarily just a bad thing. It's part of who each of us are. And it's embracing that and not trying to push it away. So again, just tell us more about your thoughts on the shadow.
Okay. So I think probably the idea of the shadow was introduced to me, or that I really started to recognize it or work with it, was when I started seeking to heal, doing spiritual healing work for myself, and being introduced to the concept of fear-based and love-based reality, and recognizing that we are in a reality of duality, and there is the shadow and there is the light. We have both going on. So yeah, absolutely having to face that. And I ran away. Oh my goodness. That's when I've really gotten in trouble, is when I've run away, or not wanted to face the shadow, or my shadow, I'll say, immediately shift and change or take responsibility for first. So the shadow being, you know, those repressed places. It can be those repressed places. It can be a lot around creative expression as well. It can be our wounds, our traumas, but how do we, when we transmute those, can be shifted into our greatest gifts. I would say doing, you know, trauma recovery work and working with creative expression, that has been something that I feel really strongly about, is that transmuting that pain and the story into art and into like a determination, as opposed to giving up, that victim and just giving up, wanting to break down and all that, but really saying, I want to embrace this, you know, and how can I face this and get stronger in facing it, claiming it, telling the story instead of repressing it.
When did this get on your radar, the shadow, and that's something you should even be paying attention to?
At a pretty young age, I'd say in my 20s probably, and then more recently other work with Carolyn Miss. She does a lot of good work with the shadows. She's pretty unrelenting
And
in that way.
Tell us more about Carolyn.
Well, she's a mystic, a spiritual teacher, and she works with archetypes.
So
We have these
very
different,
Jungian.
yeah, and recognizing that we have these different archetypes in us, or you know, we have certain things that are more who we are, we gravitate, or that we, you know, embody, but it's not like we can control that. It's part of our contract. You know, we have to walk it out and transmute it in our walk. And just how our shadows, the stuff that we hide away if we don't bring it into light to deal with it, how that gets kind of manifested into society, into our way of relating, into our relationships. You know, anybody who is actually just being really straightforward about these things, I think, is really a powerful teacher. And I know, again, that for me, the dangerous place has been when I wasn't willing to face things. So I think that in these times, we have a really great opportunity because there's so much that's up. I mean, the shadow stuff that we don't want to deal with or look at, it is right there. But on the other side of this, as we're doing this work, you know, it can be very raw and very intense and challenging to transmute it.
What do you mean when you say create safe spaces? And whose responsibility is that?
I believe first that we need to create that for ourselves, and that's self-love is where we're doing that. We're creating boundaries. Everybody doesn't know about that or hasn't been introduced to it. That's an important piece, is being somebody. It doesn't, you know, it's not just about doing a class or teaching a group or doing that in your business. It's how we walk in the world. Focusing on that in our own energy, it comes back to that being a decent human being with others as well, so that, you know, we're not kind of acting out our triggers on each other. That's important, you know, that's important, because it's not just about saying people get to act any way they want. If they're triggered, other people just have to deal with it. They're going to choose to be safe or not. You know, yeah, we have to filter stuff and say, you know, but we all also need to, I believe it's important for us to be conscious in ourselves. And then other things that I would say, safe spaces is in the groups that we're in the way that we just relate to each other. Again, finding like-minded or harmonious community groups that you get together with socially, professionally, all kinds of ways. I think the community is just a huge piece in general too. How we act in our families, how we're treating the earth, so many different ways. You know, I mean, you know that there are people in your life, you just feel good with them. They just feel like, you know, they're going to treat you well, and that you can be yourself. And you want to be yourself anyway, but that's, you know, easier said than done, and figuring out what that is as well. Just kind of having each other's backs, you know.
What have you been doing ever since you moved from Miami to LA? How have things evolved onward with you? What have you been working on? What have you been focusing on, you know, more directly?
Moving out here, so I'm about an hour south of LA and about a little over an hour north of San Diego. So I'm kind of in between the two places, and it's been an interesting experience. Beautiful, beautiful place to be as well. I feel like I landed well in terms of the pandemic, with everything kind of coming up. But when I came out here, my intention was to connect a lot more into the different things that are going on in this area. So that's been definitely a navigational piece. I'm still an interesting thing to be doing, because a lot of it is happening online right now with the pandemic. So finding your way. At this point, I've been doing a lot of work kind of with a rebranding in terms of bringing things full circle, because over the last 20 years, I've been on the East Coast doing the different work that I do and focusing on different, my specialization. So coming out here was really about bringing things more full circle. And I'm definitely still in that process, and focusing a lot more with this kind of bringing everything together, so that I'm not just doing one element of, say, fitness work or one element of massage work, but really offering this kind of comprehensive process and program. I've been doing a lot of work on just redesigning my website and reworking a lot of things internally. It's been a lot of internal work as well, my own internal work. Building community, slowly building community out here. I'm working with my program of core recovery and strength and dance therapy, connecting with more people locally. You have to find each other too, and that's an interesting process when you move across the country to a whole new place. In that way, locally, I'm working on, I'm connecting with other people and starting to collaborate with, I just, 2 weeks ago, before I just went on a little trip and just came back, was working with 2 other women, and I was doing the dance therapy portion and guided meditation, an online kind of mini course. And then one of them was actually focusing more on working with something called melt, if you've heard of that, working with a soft foam roller and working with the soft tissues of the body. I do, as a massage therapist, I do some of that kind of general stuff, but she was kind of going into her work with the diaphragm. And then another woman was kind of Q&Aing with us, an MC. It was an unexpected twist and turn to hit the pandemic. So I've been kind of just navigating, that whole process of being all online as things start to open up a little more, being able to create, community locally in person.
Could you give us a little bit of insight of what it's like when you're onboarding a new client?
One thing that I like to start with, that I offer, is a free consultation. That's, 20-minute free consultation, just to connect, to get a sense of, first of all, if we're a match, to give them kind of a sense of what I do by speaking directly with me, and also kind of what that person is dealing with or seeking, to have help and support with. We go into, I use some the formats that I've used, but it's kind of been reworked to integrate.
It's always adapting and evolving.
Yeah, adapting and evolving. And then we work with a 90-minute assessment, hearing about their history more, asking questions and talking about lifestyle. Because a lot of what happens in the work that I do with people is that kind of evolve different elements of their life or their story they may not have been even thought about, may come to the forefront, and then it's like, oh well, we can work on this, or an interest or a passion may come forth in the process. But we start with that 90-minute. I work with an 8-week program, 8-week kind of sessions, but I also have flexibility. If that's not something somebody can do, then I'll work with them if they just need a session, or, I kind of try to meet people, but I do work with that framework where if you have that 8 weeks, you're going to have much more of a foundation, and we can build from that. So there are people who go on and work for years if you can get that foundation in there.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So first one is, if you could speak to anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
The first person that comes to me is Isadora Duncan.
Oh, the dancer.
Yeah, the dancer.
What about her?
I think it's interesting. She was, on one level, a free spirit, very, very committed to her creative expression and to staying connected to her own truth and following her own vision, but in a very free-spirited way, especially when what she was doing wasn't. Things are a lot more open now.
Well, just to give the people a little bit of insight into Isadora Duncan, give us a little bit of her history, the time, the era that she was in, and the things that she was trying to accomplish in that era.
Well, I don't know the exact dates of when she was around. I mean, she's the person that really came to my mind. She might have been the early 19th century. I don't know the exact dates, but she was basically one of the pioneers in modern dance and expressive dance. And she created a school. She worked with children. She kind of just took this vision, and out of a time when, that was not what was expected of women, to express themselves freely, to be comfortable in their bodies, not to be kind of fitting a role and being very prim and proper and covered up. She really focused on being that free spirit in your expression. And yet she had this structured school that she created.
Yeah, she kind of, I think of people like her, Frida Kahlo, like these
Yes.
very strong women in a
Yes.
time where it was hard to be a strong woman.
Yes.
It was going to be met with a lot of resistance.
A lot of resistance, yeah.
But they did it.
Yeah, they did it. And we have them to thank for that as well, because it was not easy.
So now,
and then she also died being a free spirit. She's had kind of an intense passing. But
so next question is, what are maybe the top 3 resources that have inspired you?
Wow, that's really distilling it down. And this may be not anything that you were anticipating.
They're your resources.
My top resource is spirit.
Okay.
Top resource.
What does that mean to you? The spirit, the source.
I mean, source is creator, our creator, the all-knowing, all-being, omniscient presence of love that we come from and that we're made of and that we're going to. That's always there, unconditionally loving us and guiding us and connecting into that, because that is also, it's an intelligence that knows beyond my human comprehension, but yet that will guide, that guides and comforts and protects and supports. So that is a source that I will never turn away from, because nothing works without that. That's the beginning and the end, the middle, the beginning and the end. Another resource would be the earth, Mother Earth, connecting into that life force and always present. Also, I mean, that's divinity as well, but that's, sustenance, inspiration, beauty, just being connected into nature, and just the amazingness of being on this planet, that we get to have this incredible variety. I know you're Sagittarius, you love to experience those adventures, the travels, that's a really big one. Yeah, I mean, gosh, I can't imagine. I'm so grateful to be an earthling. Then another resource, specific kind of resource, I'm going to distill it down to people. I'm not going to say one specific person, but I'd say people who've been really loving, who are just like where you can go and be guided and learn and grow and come away feeling so full and so supported.
Next question, and here's the time travel question.
Okay, I gotta think fast.
Well, it's this one can get people because it's a little bit of a different twist on a question that people expect, but then the twist is like, oh, well, that's unexpected. Here we go. If you can go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old father, what advice would you give him?
Okay, my 18-year-old father.
Since you brought him up earlier.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Okay, the advice I would give him is, you're a really sensitive soul. It's going to be really important to you to focus on healing your wounds. You went through some really difficult stuff, and it's going to be really important for you to be there and heal that, and not let those wounds take over, because you have a really good heart. And if you don't deal with that, it's gonna hurt you. And if you do that, you're gonna be able to really flourish, because you're really, really talented, really gifted, and you have a beautiful heart. So really focus on healing it. Heal scary stuff. Face it.
Thank you. All right. So next question is, are there any questions you would like to ask me?
I know that you have recently moved and done this wonderful big life change. How is the community in Colorado Springs? How are you navigating in the pandemic?
All right. So I've only been here really 3 months, and just a little cherry on top is that we moved again this weekend because we bought a
Oh,
house. We bought a house. We came and we rented, but with the intention of looking to buy. And we put an offer, we got accepted. And
mm-hmm.
if you're not in Colorado Springs, you don't realize that the housing market here is insane. Like, I was speaking with a real estate agent, and he was telling me that in all of El Paso County, which is a pretty big space that encompasses even more than Colorado Springs, there's only approximately 700 homes for sale at all. So the inventory is very low. And
Mm-hmm.
then of those 700, only 8 of them were under 300,000. And we got ours for like 295. so
Wow,
uh,
that's
so we got,
amazing.
yeah. So we
Congratulations.
got
Yeah,
something now. As for the work part, work has been tough because the pandemic
yeah,
made it tougher, because like I knew I was going to take a hit moving out here anyway, but taking a hit
yeah,
in a normal world where you can go out and meet people
yeah.
and do things,
Yeah, I can
you
relate.
can yeah, you're feeling the same thing. You can
Yeah,
grow a little bit more efficiently because you're out and about. But
yeah.
when you move to a place and you can't really go places, like you can do some Zoom things here, but nobody hasn't really met you and really felt your
Yes.
energy and all that. Now, in
Yes.
saying that, I have been networking like a mad person out here.
Yes.
I
That's
have
the
been going
thing.
to every single networking thing I could possibly get to,
Yeah.
specifically if they're in person. Like, I went to
Yeah.
Toastmasters, I've joined like 5 networking groups, and the people here are really super cool. The thing is that
Yeah.
this place is a beautiful place, number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number two, almost everybody here is active. And I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but how much research do we need to read that confirms that exercise is
Yes.
going to make you psychologically better, emotionally better, spiritually better? So you have a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of people here who just exercise.
Right.
And a distinction between Miami and here is that, actually two distinctions between Miami and here, is that here, or in Miami, people work out more for vanity. People want
Yes.
to
Yeah.
look good, where people here want to perform good. It'll give you the same outcome in that you'll have a body that's strong and
Mm-hmm.
flexible and stable and all that, but the foundations are different.
Yeah.
People are not that they don't care about their looks, but it's not look driven, it's performance driven.
Right.
So that's one of the first distinctions. Second distinction, and I think it's not specifically Miami, I think it's just big cities as opposed to places that are not as big. Because
Mm-hmm.
Colorado Springs, what makes this place, I think, so unique is that it's got right in the middle of that feel of being a big city, but still feeling like a small town at
I
the
love
same
that.
time. And yeah,
That's
I
a
love
great
that.
combination. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't
It's
feel
really
like you're
great.
overrun,
Yeah.
but you can still have, there's still things to do. There's some nightlife, there's things. It's just all of it has been curtailed by COVID. To finish that point, the big difference between like a city and a place like this is that in the cities, it's way more transactional. It's like, okay, you have what I need, I'll give you some money, and that's it. Where here, it's very relationship based. It's better, but it takes longer to build because relationships take time to build. They're just not like,
Yes.
hey, I'm here and that's
Right.
it.
Right. Right. No.
So I'm navigating, making less financially, trying to not get caught up in the energy that can make one feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, much like which is why I get along with you so much, this is happening for us,
Yeah.
not to us.
Right.
And there's going to be opportunity if you keep that mindset of opportunity is always around the corner, or not
Yeah.
even always around. Opportunity is always in your face. Is that
Mm-hmm.
some of them are for you and some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Yeah.
choose them. So I am caught in that. I feel the fire of, we just bought a home. We need to pay for this home. They're
Right.
thinking of shutting down again. And how am I going to navigate all of these things
Yes.
and continue
Yes.
to embrace the journey. So that's where I am with all of that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I
But,
totally hear
again,
you.
we can focus on the part that breaks us down, or we can focus on the part that will build us.
Right.
And I choose to focus on
Absolutely.
the side that builds. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you for asking that question. And our last
Yeah.
question is, where can we find more Morgyn? Tell us all the places that Morgyn is putting out this fantastic energy.
Okay. Well, you can find me in the park. You can find me on the beach. No, you can actually, but no, I have, my website is morgyndanae.com. Really straightforward. I have a strange spelling to my name, but you know what that is. So
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Morgyn Danae Wellness. And then as a dancer, Morgyn Gaia Dancer. I have a Facebook business page. It's not, it's kind of more of a standing website, but it's there. Morgyn Danae Wellness. And I'm actually, this week is the week I'm going to really, I've decided it's a good thing to focus on building a YouTube channel. Okay. So yeah, so I can't say that's a happening thing yet, but it's coming.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So now we all know where we can find more Morgyn, and she is a fantastic energy to get connected with. So look her up. So Thanks. That is our episode for today. If you thought this was a fantastic episode, please like, share, and rate the episode. If you feel the message resonated with you, you can find this and past episodes of WEYT on YouTube. And remember, WEYT is spelled W-E-Y-T, which stands for What's Engaging Your Thoughts. So again, on YouTube, it's WEYT Show, Facebook, WEYT Show, Instagram, WEYT Show. And if you'd like to schedule a call with me, you can send me an email at weytshow@gmail.com. And in closing, like always, time and attention is the greatest gift we can give to each other. So here's to spreading more peace, love, and smile.